Robert Morris is in deep trouble, and it's getting worse by the day. It all started when he abruptly stepped down as senior pastor of Gateway Church in 2024. Why? Because explosive reports surfaced, accusing him of harming a little girl all the way back in 1982, during his time preaching in Oklahoma. Now, a grand jury in Oklahoma has officially charged him with 5 serious crimes, and yes, a criminal trial is on the horizon. But that's not the only battle Morris is facing. He recently asked Gateway Church for a hefty payout, millions in retirement benefits. Their response? A firm number. They rejected his request outright, and now Morris wants to settle the matter behind closed doors through binding arbitration. No judge, no jury, just a private arbitrator making the final call. Why the push for privacy? Simple. He's already drowning in public scrutiny from the criminal charges. The last thing he wants is a messy public courtroom fight over money, but no matter how private he wants it, the spotlight isn't fading anytime soon. Gateway Church isn't going along with Morris's plan. They've gone to court asking a judge to block him from forcing arbitration. They don't want this settled behind closed doors. They want it handled out in the open, likely through the regular court system. And honestly, it's a sad sight. We're watching a pastor and his own church locked in a legal tug-of-war over money, not ministry, not mission, money. And it all stems from acts that have now cast a long, dark shadow over Robert Morris's entire legacy. Instead of leading a church, he's defending himself in court. Instead of shepherding a flock, he's chasing retirement checks and facing accusations that date back decades. It's painful to witness. What should have been a story of faith and trust has spiraled into lawsuits, scandals, and bitter disputes. Morris claims he had a compensation deal back in 2014. He says church leaders later made a verbal promise, backing his right to a $1 million retirement payout. And not just that, he believes he's owed around $800,000 every year until age 70. Then, after that, according to him, the deal guarantees $600,000 a year, first to him and then to his wife Debbie after he's gone. But Gateway Church is calling foul. They say there's no proof, no signed agreement, no paper trail. Nothing to support these claims, no written promises from any meeting with the elders, just words, and a whole lot of controversy. The church isn't backing down, not one bit. They argue that if there was a deal, it can't just be changed with someone's word. Verbal promises, not enough. They say it has to be in writing, signed, sealed, and clear. So they're flat out rejecting Morris's claims about the payments. And this disagreement, it's exactly why Gateway wants a court to step in, not some private arbitrator. They want everything on record. They want the facts laid bare before a single dollar is handed over. And let's be honest, we're not talking about pocket change here. Morris is asking for $800,000 every year until he turns 70. He's around 64 now. That's several more years of massive payouts, all from donations given in faith by church members. And it doesn't stop there. Once he hits 70, he still wants $600,000 a year for the rest of his life. Then, even after he dies, that money would continue, going straight to his wife, Debbie. It's a staggering sum, and it makes you stop and think, is this ministry or a business? No wonder some people chase the title of pastor in the megachurch world. There's serious money involved, mansions, luxury cars, designer everything. These are the perks some pastors seem to enjoy, while their followers give sacrificially, hoping their donations will uplift communities, spread kindness, and support the vulnerable. Instead, many are watching their money-fueled lifestyles that look more like celebrity than service. And now, with the scandal around Robert Morris blowing up, the fallout is hitting Gateway Church hard, real hard. Their public image, shattered. Their trust with the congregation, on shaky ground. And the elders, they're scrambling, working overtime to repair the damage and restore what's left of the church's reputation. That's why they're angry. That's why they're fighting. Because this isn't just about money, it's about what's left of their name. Gateway Church isn't just upset, they're accusing Robert Morris of being dishonest. In their latest court filing, they say they're shocked by what they describe as Morris's defiantly unapologetic attitude. And now, they want him to come clean. They're demanding he publicly admit how old Cindy Clemisher really was at the time of the alleged abuse. They want him to show real remorse, to take back his claims that the church elders always knew everything. But instead of repentance, what they see is a man still clinging to comfort and wealth. Even after resigning, Morris hasn't exactly stepped away from the high life. According to a bombshell report by the Roy's Report, between 2012 and 2024, Morris quietly bought and sold a string of multi-million-dollar homes across Texas. We're talking serious luxury. 2 homes, each worth $8 million, a $4 million property in Westlake, one of the wealthiest suburbs in the country, and a $1.7 million lakefront getaway in Possum Kingdom Lake. That's not all. There's also a 370-acre ranch in Jacksboro, valued at least $8 million, and a custom-built dream home in Colleyville with a price tag to match. At one point, Morris reportedly owned 3 of these properties at the same time, and while he did sell the Westlake mansion shortly after stepping down, he's still holding on to that ranch, and the lake house, still his. All this, while regular churchgoers, the very people who filled the offering plates, live paycheck to paycheck. It's a jarring picture. A man once seen as a spiritual leader, now facing criminal charges, locked in financial battles, and living a life far removed from the pulpit. This right here, it shows just how much wealth Robert Morris has stacked up over the years, and it forces us to ask the hard question, how did we get here? How did we get to a place where some church leaders live in mansions, while the everyday people who support them struggle to pay rent? It's a brutal contrast, and it's real, because one thing about wealth, it can change people, it puffs them up, it clouds judgment, and if you ask Gateway Church, Morris has shown none of the humility that should come with his position, or this moment. Their words paint a picture of a man hardened, not humbled, and there's an old saying, timeless and true, what's done in the dark will always come to light. That's why this story hits close to home for me, because I've seen it too many times in ministry. Scandal breaks out, and instead of repentance, people scramble for control. Instead of falling on their face before God, they run to PR firms, hire secular companies, write cold, lifeless scripts, read off teleprompters with dry eyes and stiff necks, trying to explain away sin like it's a bad press release. They try to soften the blow, dull the sting, make perversion and injustice sound like a misstep. But hear me clearly, that is not repentance, that's performance, that's pride wrapped in damage control. What we need, what God is looking for, is a heart that breaks, a man who doesn't care about optics, but runs to the altar with tears, with truth and with trembling. Because once you get in front of your sin, once you try to manage it instead of confess it, you've already chosen the road to judgment, and that road moves faster than you think. What you really need to do is skip the teleprompter, run right past the stage lights, past the cameras, and find yourself an old-fashioned altar, a quiet place, away from the crowd, fall on your knees, and say the only thing that matters, I have sinned. Because this whole situation, it's a sobering reminder that leadership, especially spiritual leadership, must be rooted in honesty, in humility, and in truth. Because one way or another, truth always catches up. And let's be real, too many preachers today are living like CEOs, encouraging their followers to buy books, give tithes, sow seeds, with the promise that if they give enough, they too will be blessed. But you and I both know how that story usually ends. The person holding the microphone is the one flying private, while the people in the pews are still praying for a breakthrough. It's not right. It's not what ministry is meant to be, because ministry isn't about building empires. It's about building people. It's about serving, not being served. And when leaders forget that, the entire community suffers. So as we wrap this up, thank you. Thank you for listening, for thinking, for refusing to look away, and most of all, for asking the hard questions, because the truth, it deserves to be told.
The reason why this is so close to my heart is this is what I see in ministry so very often, in scandal. People who rush to do crisis control instead of open repentance before God. When people who are in scandal and sin and secret hire companies, secular companies, to come in and do damage control for their ministry, write scripts to be read, stare blankly at a teleprompter without emotion, without tear, without acknowledgement, and explain away the injustice. Try to lighten the load of sin and perversion and sexual sin and whatever it might be. Pay attention to me. You need people that know how to get on their face before God. Only God can do damage control. If you get out in front of your sin and you think you're going to create a strategy of damage control, you've already sealed the path of judgment and you're escalating the path and it's coming quicker than you think. What you really ought to do is run by the teleprompter and find an old-fashioned altar and get in a private place instead of a public place and say, I have sinned.